So, as an author and as a big reader, I get asked a lot, like, what is your favorite book? What is the ultimate book as far as like your reading experience and the book that you've enjoyed the most? And so, for me, the best book, my favorite book, the book that really just stands heads and shoulders above everything else is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is such a good book. It does not suffer from the sophomore slump that a lot of second books, a lot of sequels do fall into. In almost every way, I think this does what Words of Radiance does and then takes it to the next level. Personally, I think Words of Radiance is the best book I've ever read. It is by far one of the most engaging stories. It just takes the story to a new level. It improves on so much of what the previous book did and just tells the story in such a fun, interesting way. Now, Words of Radiance is the second book in the Stormlight Archives, if you are not familiar with it. It's a story that takes place on a different world. It's very heavily influenced by, these storms that hit this and ravaged this land and the kind of remnants of magic that are left there. I've heard some people say that it's a post-apocalyptic world because of all the things that have happened. There are these cataclysmic events that happen on this world, and they really shift everything. They really turn everything upside down. And for a lot of people, it brings them back to, point zero in a lot of ways. So in a way, you could say it's a fantasy post-apocalyptic world. So, take that with whatever you will, right? So Words of Radiance continues the story. It's the second book in the series, so it continues all the really interesting world building and groundbreaking stuff that the first book does, and then it continues the story, and I feel like it does not dip at all. I think from beginning to end, this is one of the most engaging stories, start to finish. There's no lull. It's very fast-paced, even though it is a very hefty book, right? You can tell this is a thick book. It is going to keep you engaged. The world building is done in such a way that it's still engaging. There are no massive lore dumps. The author does such a great job in keeping things moving in such a fast-paced, interesting way. Now there are, lots of little bit of nuggets here and there that continue the story, that tell little things that happened in the past and stuff like that. But it is done in such a good way. So Brandon Sanderson is really known for his Cosmere series. This is part of the Cosmere. This is his probably his most well-known series. It is probably one of the best series that I've ever read. Now there are 4 in the series right now, with the 5th one coming out supposedly this year in 2024, possibly beginning of next year, but from what I've heard, it will be this year. And so there's going to be a lot more to tell. Supposedly there will be a break in between a first arc and a second arc, and so there's going to be a lot more to come. There's going to be probably a pretty decent time gap in between them where the story will continue. But to answer the question, what is my favorite book? Words of Radiance, hands down.